Hey everyone, my name is Neil Karski, and I'm the CEO of Patient Engine, a seven-figure digital marketing, lead conversion, and coaching agency for high-ticket aesthetics providers. And I would like to personally welcome you to the Aesthetics Millionaires show, where we sit down with industry entrepreneurs to talk about their personal journeys and discuss proven growth strategies. My genuine hope is that through this podcast, we can create more success stories in this industry and help more business owners scale past their competition. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on today's podcast episode. Today I'm joined by the owner and CEO of YS Aesthetics in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Dr. Ben Shatil. Ben, thank you so much for hopping on. You're a busy man. We were able to catch you. Let's dive right into this. Tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us what got you into aesthetics. I know we have a lot of clients who are health practitioners who kind of decide to get into aesthetics. Let's dive into your story a little bit more.
So Neil, I'm actually an anesthesiologist. Finished my fellowship in obstetric anesthesia in 2019, but I was pretty interested in aesthetics from early on. So actually, while in residency, while I was doing my anesthesia rounds and all of that, on my off time, I would follow the dermatology residents around and start learning stuff from the aesthetic side of things. My mom's an esthetician. My sister's done permanent makeup for a long time, so it was sort of all within the realm. And then in 2016, my sister and I decided to open up the clinic together while I was still in residency, and we just sort of, ran things as best as possible, and it took on a life of its own. Something that I thought would be a side gig became, my main gig.
So, mom and sister influence definitely.
For sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So 2016. So that was like, I think, so I started my agency for aesthetics in 2020. And I think that was like that was COVID. And that was like a pivotal jump. Like, I think really aesthetics blew up then. So you were, I would say, earlier on in this space. What inspired like the business model you wanted to take on? Like, were you like, hey, did you talk to your sister and you're like, hey, we're gonna just start with facials? Like, what was the initial like strategy, and where did the YS Aesthetics brand come from?
So initially, my sister did a lot of makeup for big models, shoots, and she did a great job, and she sort of hated it. She wanted to be her own boss. So she decided to open up a microblading clinic. And she got so popular, she had like a year waiting list. So as growing, she decided, I want to start doing some injectables. She spoke to me and said, how do you feel about getting into this? And I said, well, I'm in residency. I don't really have much time. I was in New York City. She was in Fort Lauderdale. And so we said, okay, let's hire a dermatologist. So we did some part-time work with the dermatologist and started opening up the brand under her. And while doing some injectables on the side with this dermatologist, I would come in about once a week, doing different hours depending on the need. In the meantime, I was training and I was really getting into it. And at one point we said, you know what, I think that I'm going to start taking over instead. So in 2019, I started working at the clinic right before COVID, really, just 6 months before COVID. And it just really took off. I started with 1 weekend a month. I would fly in like on a Thursday night and do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Turned into those days lasting from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then they just continued. I mean, the need was so high that we had to open up more days. I was flying down 2 weekends a month and then eventually opening up for 1 week a month and using my vacation time from work for it. Until finally I decided, you know what, I'm going to move down to Florida and this will be it.
How did your sister, what did your sister do to garner all the interest in the clinic? Was she just like really putting herself out there? Was it word of mouth? Did you guys get a lot of referrals? Like, I think it's like, I was talking to somebody else yesterday on another episode, and there was someone who was in business for a long time, and she grew her practice to 7 figures, just organic, word of mouth, networking, some of the more traditional ways to market. But I'm a paid ads guy, and I scaled my med spa last year. We did about 500,000 just through paid ads and then referrals from those clients. So because I was just like, hey, I don't have the patience to do organic. I really don't. And but a lot of people do, and I commend it. Like it's like super. It's tough. It's really tough. It takes time, but man, like you can get some amazing results down the line. Tell us a little bit more about how those early days of getting clientele, right? Because if you don't have clients, you don't have problems.
When I tell you that this thing took on a life of its own, because I didn't know how much time I really had, it was just all word of mouth. She had this really successful clinic for permanent makeup, so she had a lot of patients that trusted her. A database of maybe 1,000 patients starting off, which is a great place to start. I mean,
Oh,
there's a huge
she had an existing book of business from
the microblading for the brows.
and then that was her own business, or she was working at another spa?
That was her own business.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And
sister.
then, right? Exactly. So with that, it was just all word of mouth. Up until this day, we have not paid $1 in marketing.
Wow.
I have a social media company, and they come and take content and we make fun videos together and all of that, which we pay for because it was too much to manage. She used to manage our social media too, up until like 2 or 3 years ago. But we don't do any paid ads or anything. It's just all word of mouth and people liking the results and hearing about us. And that's it.
Well, we'll talk about that. As a paid ads growth marketer, for me, I always advocate for them, but like I said, I love seeing people do well organically as well. I can see just picturing your sister be like, hey, have you met my brother? He can actually help you too. And then it is snowballing.
Pretty much.
That's awesome. So she had this book of business. She was doing a permanent makeup stuff. So what did you guys add on initially to get clients, better results, and to get them to, come back and refer you?
So before I decided to start working in aesthetics and actually myself doing the injecting, I took a lot of courses. I went to the UK and did some advanced courses with these injectors that my sister actually found. And she said, this is what we're bringing to the United States. So we worked on a completely different spectrum of techniques. And then I came in and we sort of advertised me in that way, again, by word of mouth, just saying, lip filler technique totally different, facial balancing technique totally different. Give it a shot. And I did. From the very beginning, I really hated the overfilled, sort of over filler look. Patients were coming in
You
saying,
don't like duck faces?
no. And my patients were coming in saying, my previous injector was every 1 year was putting between 8 to 10 syringes in my face. And I'm like, I think you need like 4.
And then besides that, what else differed with the technique that you learned? Was it the products themselves? Was it, how to use the products? You kind of say, hey, you kind of already shared a little bit about like, we don't want to inflate the face, and to really distort the whole appearance of a human being, but more of a natural approach.
Yeah, to enhance natural beauty. The products themselves, no, none of the products I actually learned on are available in the United States. The UK has a lot of products that we don't have here. So it wasn't so much that, it was just finding something similar to it. I use a lot of Restylane products. They've been doing great for me. It's just more about the technique, where to inject, how to inject, doing like 8-point facelifts. My lip technique, I took what I learned and I created a brand new technique. There's some similarities to other injectors, obviously, because there's so many ways you can inject the lip, but there are distinct differences that make mine different. And with that lip technique, I've attracted a lot of people. People on a daily basis pretty much fly into our clinic to come see us.
Wow.
We're near Fort Lauderdale Airport, so people just fly in for the day. And I always tell them, why don't you stay for the weekend? Enjoy Fort Lauderdale. They're like, no, you got to go back to my kids, or I got to go back to whatever. So
you're I mean, injectables is your thing.
The last probably 4 years, I've gotten very deep into regenerative aesthetics. So I've been doing a lot more radio frequency, CO2 lasers, exosomes, PRP, PDGF, all that stuff. The salmon PDRN now for the last like year.
Cool. Um, let's get into art of consultation.
Okay.
Because I think this is I gotta go there because it does seem like you have a lot of happy clients. It does seem like, you said, hey, I people know me for injectables, but I think you went the route of like, hey, I want to help you holistically, right? Like you said, regenerative aesthetics. So let's get into the consultation. I think the consultation is everything, right?
That's 100%.
Because consultation, if you're just selling X amount of units, or if you're just selling tiers, you're likely not doing a proper consultation. So you're doing your clients a disservice. You're selling to sell, not sell to help. So let's talk about consultation and kind of like, we don't need to go step by step, but maybe, tell us a little bit more about what makes your consultation process unique or different in a way that allows you to prescribe the best treatment plan for the client, but also to sell them organically.
So first of all, to sort of follow with what you're saying, I firmly believe that the best patient is an existing patient. Obviously, we all want new patients, and I want to grow the practice and continue bringing new patients in through word of mouth and what have you. But patients that have already been to me, that I've treated them, and they're happy with their results and they're coming back, they already trust me. So I'm 10 steps ahead at that point. So doing a proper consultation on those patients, it's the easiest sell, especially when I'm doing something that I really believe will benefit them and they will see results and be happy with it. You know, getting a patient to trust you is the first step of the game. So once they're there, doing the proper consultation is really a game changer. I don't know how my consultation differs than others, but I know the first thing I ask my patients that usually surprises them is, what do you love about yourself? I hand them a mirror and I force them to tell me what features about their face or body, whatever we're talking about, they love about themselves. So sometimes it's hard for people to answer that, or the first thing to say, well, I don't really love I said, nope, stop.
Wow, that's
Don't tell me
powerful.
what you don't love. Tell me what you do love about yourself. And that's where I always start, especially with a new patient, because I really just want to say, and when they don't understand, I said, tell me what I cannot touch, don't change. I love my nose, don't touch my nose. Or I love my cheekbones, I love my eyes, my brows. Tell me anything that you don't want me to change, that you just love about yourself.
I'm gonna call my estheticians today and tell them to start utilizing that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And it sets like a positive connotation for the consultation, which is great.
Yeah, I think, aesthetics can be a realm where there's a lot of body dysmorphia. You get filler blind and you get overfilled, and it's a place where people want to feel better about themselves, but they're often coming, not always, but they're often coming with lower self-esteem or issues that they want to fix. And so I think it's good to accentuate the positive, show them their beauty that they do have, and be able to make it more pronounced or to improve it in some ways while still getting them some extra self-esteem.
Cool. Let's go. Keep going. I love it. What else? What else do you do in a consultation that allows you to get that vulnerability?
So I start there. I ask them, like I said, what they love about themselves, and then I say, okay, well now, you've sort of told me that. Tell me the reason why you're here. What are you trying to improve? And with that, I start to talk to them about how aging works, the 5 layers of the skin or the face, starting from skin down to bone. And we start to talk about why they're seeing these changes and how we can help in ways that will look natural and make them look more youthful without making some extreme change. Now, patients that want, someone who comes with super thin lips and they want triple the size of lips, and if I think it'll look good for them, then I tell them, okay, over time we can build your lips, not a problem. But in general, I try to keep the patients looking pretty natural, youthful, And I do that not just with filler, but also with different devices, lasers, all of that. So that's sort of the route that I like to take. I like my patients to understand why we're doing certain procedures, for them to understand why they may be seeing these changes where 5 years ago they didn't see jowling and now they do. I explain to them superficial fat descends, deep fat shrinks. These are all the things that I go through them because I like to have knowledge and I like to be able to understand what's happening. And so I treat my patients in the same way. And I think most people appreciate that. They like to understand why we're going to do what we're doing, what to look for, that some of these changes are more gradual, like with, let's say, Sculptra and the collagen builders, um, as opposed to just getting this instant gratification effect that sometimes makes us all feel better, but might not look as best.
Hmm. How do you overcome the I want to see results first before I continue to invest, knowing that, I have body sculpting spas, right? And it's with body sculpting, it's very rare that you're going to see an immediate result. Like your body has to respond to the treatments, and it's really your body that does the work. So, for the most part, people's goals will not be accomplished within a single session, right? And that's why you also do a treatment plan as well for your patients to get them the best results. But a lot of people are like, "Hey, I just want to see what happens," right? Let's talk about that because I think it's a big question.
So to answer the question of how I get people to just trust me, to be very honest with you, I usually grab them by the shoulder and I say, "Trust me, you'll be happy with your results." I swear. I mean, how else do you prove to somebody? Obviously, I showed them before and after some other patients or similar, patients with similar features or similar issues that we've treated, and the results speak for themselves. Um, but they're spending a lot of money and they understand I'm going in for a 3 to 6 month process where I have to trust this person that I'm putting down all this money and I'm going to look better. It really is just a matter of some physical contact, my hand on their shoulder, I hold their hand, whatever it is. Trust me, I'm I'm here for you. This is the route we're taking. I think it's the best treatment plan possible. If at the end of this treatment plan, there's still some things that we need to fix, I got your back. I don't just leave you high and dry. We'll make sure that we get you to your realistic desired results. And that's it. I
I
try to
think
be
that
as
last
honest as
part,
possible with people.
I think that last part isn't really important. And part of the reason why I started this podcast is to promote best practices in our industry. And I always tell my estheticians to tell the clients, like, hey, we're going to work with you until you get the best results, but you have to follow the protocols. There has to be that cross accountability, of course. Um, but I think people are just generally afraid of spending money, not getting results that they want. And, sometimes that happens because of them too. They miss appointments or, they don't follow the protocols. Right. But I really like that you kind of, emphasize like, hey, we're on the same team.
A couple of years ago, I started creating these all-inclusive plans, meaning I give the patients their best shot possible to look the best. I don't give them options. I just say, this is sort of what the treatment plan is going to be. This is how much it's going to cost. Within your budget, I can work with you. But if I'm going to do RF microneedling CO2 laser on somebody, let's say, I'm already including exosomes and medical grade skincare in the package. I don't say, oh, for an additional $100, you can get exosomes. For an additional $500, you get the skincare. It's an all-inclusive price. It's already there. I know they're going to heal better, have better results, and my results will look better. They speak for themselves. It's word of mouth. And that's sort of how I've been doing things the last couple of years, and it works really well.
Awesome. Do you guys have any other staff besides you that does what you do?
Yeah. So I have a PA and I have an NP, and obviously medical assistants and all that.
How do you, I think duplicating the knowledge, the processes, the expertise, the approach, the personal touch is hard, right? Because it's like I know in all of my businesses, like I'm the most committed person. I am the person that's going to want to get clients the best results. I am the person that's going to want to sell the most. It's just, that's the nature of entrepreneurship, especially when it comes to like SMB space, right? So how do you, how do you duplicate? How do you train maybe? How do you pass down, the Dr. Ben touch?
So this is
Do they touch
this sort of
people's
touches.
shoulders too, like you?
They do. So okay. So here's the funny thing. I was expanding the practice. A few years ago, I brought a PA on. She had moved from New York City, where she worked in a huge derm practice for 15 years. She came with a lot of experience, great results, you know, very highly recommended. So I brought her on. Now she's coming from New York City to Florida. Very different mindset, first of all. And a different attitude, different way of speaking to people and all that. So that alone was sort of a struggle in the beginning to get her more laid back Miami style, not New York City. But she's been with me now for 3 years, and while her results are incredible, it's been hard to get patients to just give her a chance because she is not Dr. Ben, despite the fact that her before and afters are great and she's so knowledgeable and all that. Now, the flip side, I have a nurse that's been with me for also about 3 years. She's been getting her nurse practitioner license or going through school for nurse to become a nurse practitioner the last 2 years of that. But she started working for me as a nurse slash medical assistant, sort of knowing about aesthetics, but not really. And I've trained her as my assistant this whole time. And she's not just trained with me because she's seen how I inject and I taught her how to inject. She also sees how I treat the patients, how I talk to them. She looks at how I consult them. And when now that she's an NP and she's able to inject patients on her own, when I tell a patient, hey, I'm not in the office today, you can see Sherelle. Oh, I love Sherelle. It's never an issue because they've seen her by my side for the last 3 years. They trust her. They know that we've worked closely together. They know that she does everything the same way that I do. And it's like I've cloned myself in female form, blonde also. But that to me is shocking when I mean, I guess it makes sense, but I tried to bring on somebody with all this experience. She still works with me and she still does great, but because this other person has grown with me, the patients just trust her more because they feel like this is an extension of me as opposed to this other person. So now as I'm thinking about how to expand my brand, open a second clinic, I'm like, well, I can't be in two places at once. How do I do this? So I'm not quite sure. This is a really tough question, actually, because it's something I've been toying with a lot recently, trying to decide how I'm going to grow this practice while still having more of me, or at least people that are like me, that care as much, that treat the same way I do, treat patients the same way I do, um, that invest into the practice as much as I do. So it's
Yeah.
tough.
I will tell you. So I manage 3 small boutique spas. I'm never there. Well, once a month, which is really interesting model. But I will tell you. So if I was you, um, I think you want to definitely find out what is the common denominator for that individual that you train, because you successfully have done it once. We know hiring, training, staffing is one of the biggest pain points in our industry. For God's sake, it took me months to find people, right?
Yep.
Good people, right? That are
Right.
that are coachable. So that, I think that's one, and I think that manifests itself in the right job description. I don't think you would probably even open a practice in another place if you didn't find at least a couple individuals that would
Oh,
fit
for sure.
fit that. I know that interviewing is extremely important. I, for example, use a consultant who helps me with sourcing candidates for my spas, because it's a lot of time. You want to obviously find somebody who's going to share your mission and vision, and who's going to be hungry, because with a new practice, you're not, unless you're in the same area. Where are you thinking about opening?
A little further south in Miami.
Okay. Miami?
Yeah. I
You
know there's
could
many, but
you could have picked.
listen,
No, I know.
I could have picked what?
No, I'm saying, I said you couldn't have picked a more saturated place. I don't think.
Yes, there are
uh,
many, I know, but listen, there are many in Fort Lauderdale too, and I mean, we're succeeding because
for
we're
sure.
just different than a lot of people.
Yeah. But it's also historical, right? Like you came with like a lot of people who trusted your sister, and then they started
Right,
trusting you. So,
right.
uh, I think new markets, like, for me, I opened in Alabama. I live in Georgia. I opened in Alabama, and I was like, I have to go. Like, for example, I was like, I have to advertise. There's no other way for me to do that, right? Um, but I think, yeah, and then marketing strategy for you would obviously be something else. But what are your plans for? With that said, like, what are your plans for your brand? Like, do you want to have a few locations? Do you just have a couple really strong locations? Do you want to stay in state, out of state? Have you been able to think about, like, some of the long-term vision aspects?
My long-term vision is to have the original YS Aesthetics, still be there, but also be partially a school where through that school I train other injectors, but also train injectors to work in clinics that I'll be opening. I'd like to have at least 3 or 4 strong, boutique style clinics. Maybe the next one just 30 minutes away in Miami, but then maybe the subsequent ones further away. Um, and sort of the same concept I did with my nurse, with Sherelle, to train them by my side, probably not over a span of 3 years, but maybe 6 months or something, to sort of try to recreate that Dr. Ben clone as best as possible. And to just, spread them out and have each one of them manage an office somewhere and then train some more people. And that's sort of the goal, is to open a few locations, and also have the school going, because I love educating. Even still, when I still work in anesthesia, I work with residents, I educate them and I train them how to do anesthesia, and I love that. So doing that in aesthetics is also a lot of fun. I've been teaching for the past, I think, 4 years or so. I just had a couple fly out from Colorado to take a course of mine, just an advanced facial balancing course. So that kind of stuff is fun.
What is is there a brand for the school, or is it through your med spa?
No, it's just through the mitzvah.
Okay, because I think that's something definitely that we could plug into here. Anybody listening who would be interested in doing some continuous education with you. What does YS stand for?
It's my dad's initials.
Okay,
Because me and my sister,
tell me more.
opened the clinic. In, like I said, 2016. Our dad passed away in 2012, and we didn't really think much about the name. We just said, you know what? Our dad was a big time entrepreneur, opened up a lot of businesses, and we had such simple minds thinking about the clinic. Yeah, this will be like a fun, because she had her thing called Makeup OMG, where she was doing microblading, and it was such a big thing. She's like, yeah, this little side hustle will be fun. And I was like, yeah, obviously I'm working in anesthesia. I got my residence and I have a crazy schedule. This little side thing will be fun. Like, oh, we'll just name it YS Aesthetics as like a tribute to our dad. And like I said, it just continued to grow all on its own. But I like to think that, his spirit or motivation somewhere in there helped the process along.
Definitely. So as far as like marketing, you said, hey, we've grown a practice pretty organically, word of mouth, referrals, people come back. What kind of mechanisms have you put in place to actually have some more predictability, right? Because like word of mouth is powerful, because people they come with a trust gap filled most of the time. So you're able to surpass that. But what have you put in place to ensure, like, hey, my practice is going to be thriving? Because, we're in a very competitive space, right? And there's always, another Dr. Ben clone that you don't like, who's going to say, hey, who's going to be like, hey, I want to open a med spa in Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yeah. So, a few different things. One, I've realized that people, obviously everyone likes free rewards, whatever. So we started a rewards program a few years ago where people build the points. But through that point system, to me, what was more important is we're able to send out text messages or emails to people. So every like 3-4 months or so, we'll say, hey, you haven't been in, we miss you, whatever. So that's sort of a way to, get people to come in, or for their birthday, we send them whatever it is, 20% off or stuff like that. That's been one way to get people to follow up a little more consistently. We started offering facials about a year ago. And I sent my esthetician and myself to South Korea to learn the glass skin facial technique and all that. That brings people in like once a month or once every 2 months. So that's also add a little more
What is
consistency.
that?
It's it's a 2-day procedure. You come in twice, every week, for 2 weeks. And the first time they come in, they do obviously extractions and all of that, but then they do microneedling pen with a product called Regeron. It's a salmon PDRN, like the salmon sperm extract. Um, and an ultrasound, like a HIFU facial, face and neck. And then the next time they come in, they do the ultrasound again, and then they do something called magnetic infusion technology. There is a skin analysis system that I brought back from Korea, that gives us a lot of information about the patient, and it's AI powered. So then it gives us a readout as to which capsules would be best. Each capsule has different oils, serums, all of that. And this magnetic infusion technology infuses the serum into the patient's skin, and they just get this like plump, super smooth, beautiful skin after the second visit.
Gotcha. How much does it cost? Okay.
5,000.
5,000?
1,000.
1,000. Oh. So you have rewards. What did you say? You have rewards? Do you have a membership?
No, not yet. We've been toying with the idea, but we don't.
Okay, no membership. You got some rewards. You got to tell me more. We gotta dive into this more. Do you just like wake up and people are just like come back? Like, I mean, do we want to like make it that easy, or do you feel like you guys are like maybe there's some processes you have put in place? Like you guys are really good at scheduling follow-up visits, for example, to get that recurring client. Obviously, you must be doing something right. People are getting really great results. Like you said, you're really thoughtful around the types of like treatments you perform on your patients, and you're probably good at saying no as well, I would say.
Absolutely. It has to be part of it.
Which is great. But are there any other mechanisms, like any other marketing strategies that you have put in place to say, hey, I know in a year I'm going to meet my goals?
To be honest with you, nothing very set in stone. Maybe that's poor businessman of me, but it's been fine the past 9 years so far. No, I mean, we're pretty good with follow-ups on patients. We make sure to call them a few days later to make sure that they're happy with it. Well, within a few days to a couple of weeks later, depending on what they had done. We follow with everybody to make sure that they're happy with the results, see them if they need to come in. And patients just, our patients are
They
good
must
patients.
love
I
you
guess they
guys.
follow with us. I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because they do. I will say one of the reasons I've thought of opening in Miami as well is because some of our good patients, for some of their smaller procedures like Botox touch-ups and that kind of stuff, they go to somewhere closer because they don't want to drive an hour north to see me. They're like, just get Botox. I'm going to my, whatever, esthetician down the road or something. Location is a big thing, especially in our area. There's a lot of traffic. And so I think even just moving the 30 minutes south to another location, even have a satellite location of some kind, will offer patients a lot more comfort in being able to come to us for everything. Whether it's their Botox touch-ups, their facials. I have patients coming in for like literally 6-7 years where I've done facial balancing, lips, everything else on them. When they say, "Oh, I just had the Morpheus done," I said, "Oh, why didn't you come to us?" "I don't know. You're too far for me to come once a month. I come to you once a year." So I think that will change things.
Do you guys have your staff like call clients who haven't been in for th-
Yes.
3 months? I mean,
Y-
that has to work in some ways, right?
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Jessica,
We
like it's been 6 months since your visit. I have a note here that you wanted to come talk about this or do this.
Yeah, so of course we've had lulls in our schedule, and I don't really believe in just sitting around and doing nothing. And my staff always knows that there's always something to do. If I see somebody on their phone, not that like I'm a crazy person, like don't be on your phone or anything. Everyone has personal lives and all that, but don't be sitting around your phone for 30 minutes when you're on the clock. So there's always something to do, whether redo inventory or what have you. So part of that process is, yeah, looking at patients. We have an electronic medical record, so you can look up by procedure or many different ways to do the
Last
report
visit.
exactly who hasn't been in an X amount of time. So we pull those reports and we start calling people or texting people and just saying, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. Last time you were here, we discussed body contouring. Last time you were here, we discussed this. Or, it's been about a year and a half since you had your facial balancing. Do you want to come back in for a consultation? And a lot of times it's met positively, like, oh, I was just thinking about you guys this time I had a chance to call you. So thanks for reaching out.
Do you guys send like a promo at all to like a seasonal promo at all to your client database?
For sure. We do monthly cross promotions. Um, I found I don't really love the idea of just doing straight discounts, like, $3 off per unit of Botox this month. I don't really like to do that. I prefer to do a cross promotion. What I mean by that is, let's say in April, or let's say, I don't know, December, it's the colder months, winter months, whatever, we do, for every deep CO2 laser treatment, you get a free full face of Botox, something like that. And now someone who may have not come to me for their Botox prior, we do their Botox, obviously complimentary. They're really happy with the results. And now they're going to come to us every 4 months for Botox, where they may have not been doing that prior. There's a month out of the year we do a skin booster under eyes with the treatment of Sculptra. So patients do Sculptra for their full face and neck. And then because you can't do Sculptra on the eyes, we do a complimentary skin booster on their eyes to treat everything. And then they love that treatment. And then next thing you know, they're coming in for a skin booster 6 months later again, because like, I love the way my under eyes look with that skin booster. Let's do it again. So stuff like that, it's offering something complimentary and obviously like a gift to the patient for getting a procedure done, but also something that will maybe lock them into another procedure that they may actually find they enjoy and will be good for them, to increase profit in another way.
Where do you feel like if you had to look at your P&L and say, here's all the services that I make the most money on, how does that pie chart look like?
For sure, the devices. I mean, there's obviously a high cost with buying these devices, like say the CO2, but the consumable cost is pretty much zero. So that pie chart shifts very heavily into that.
Revenue versus profit, those are two different pie charts for sure. Especially when you take into account recurring costs,
Mhm.
or variable costs rather. But you would say, so your lasers,
My
50%.
laser, yeah, give or take.
Then you got your injectables, 25%.
Probably higher. I buy a lot, so the prices tend to be better when you buy in bulk or you buy a lot throughout the year, and so it's higher, maybe even like 35%.
What's the 15%? Some body contouring.
Probably everything else. Some body contouring for sure. The facials. Yeah, everything else.
Gotcha.
IV therapy, wellness. We're doing the GLPs. Less of that, just for patients who really struggled with weight loss.
Let's talk about a couple more things. I like to get in. I know, being mindful of time here, I've been holding you hostage here for over
Nice.
over 40
No,
minutes. But let's get into a couple fun questions. So just related and unrelated. But Ben, what do you say you love the most about yourself?
Now you're consulting me? Physically?
If you
No.
were your own patient, what would you say?
If I was my own patient, I'd say the thing I love the most about myself is my personality, my positive personality. I tend to
Physically.
be physically, okay. Um,
I would say your personality is definitely you get a great energy about you. I'm sure it's a big reason why a lot of people come back to you, and obviously that's going to be the challenge behind replicating this moving forward in other satellite locations. But physically,
physically, I would say my smile and my nose.
what would you improve about yourself physically?
Improve, I'd want to work some more on skin texture and these lines right here.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. Um, I always say we haven't interacted in person before, but I always like with my clients who do injectables, I always try to mess with them a little bit because they've always tried to figure out how many units of something I've had in my forehead, because I feel like I do pretty well in that department, and I've always said that I've never had anything done, and I'm being honest about it. So
You never had anything injected?
nothing ever.
Okay. So Neil, what do you love about yourself?
I would say, well, my height, I'm 6'6.5".
Oh wow.
And I think I've also been able to age pretty well, which is good. So I got that. So my forehead, I'm hoping stays that way for as long as possible. And what I would improve about myself is what I'm working on right now. I'm doing a fitness program. I would love to just continue to build muscle, and especially around the core. And I need to get back to my spa, hop on that EMS device a little bit to cheat a little bit.
It's not cheating.
But Ben, a couple more fun questions for you. What is I love this one. What is a trash fast food that you kind of sometimes lean on for as advice?
Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Taco Bell at like 3 a.m. after going out to a bar with friends or something with lots of fire sauce.
Yeah. Sounds good. I haven't had Taco Bell in a long time. And then any sort of advice, I think it's important for us to continue to support each other in this industry. My med spas are more boutique and stuff like that, but I always try to make sure that I'm also learning and promoting some best practices. Any advice you want to give to people listening to this so we can, I'm a big fan of I advocate for healthy competition. I advocate for getting people results. I advocate for holistic health and wellness integration with aesthetics, not just treating the symptoms, stuff like that. But any major advice that you want to share for folks? You've been doing this for a while now, and you've built an amazing practice. People love you. They fly from all over the place to see you. So you must be doing something right. Would love to just have you share a little bit about advice to people, maybe some other folks who are, looking to grow their practices or who are looking to improve their practices.
I've always been a firm believer that if you love what you're doing and you're passionate about what you're doing, you will succeed. So I think that's very important. Don't do it just for the money. Don't do it just because you don't know what else to do. Do it because you really enjoy it. And that shows in your work, that shows in your attitude, that shows to your patients. And that is by far the best way to succeed. And just be a good colleague. Don't, badmouth other clinics. Don't try to steal patients from other people. Just, everyone, there's enough to go around for everybody. And we just gotta be supportive of each other and work together. And I think the rest just happens organically.
Beautiful. And Ben, where can people find you and connect with you? Obviously, you got your brand in Fort Lauderdale, your spa, and then you're an educator. So if anybody wants to connect with you, network, or maybe even come see you for some facial rebalancing education, where can people find you, connect with you?
Instagram is a great way to do it. Dr. Ben S, DRBNS. Or through our website, there's a contact us form, YSaesthetics.com. Probably the best ways to reach me.
Sounds good. Dr. Ben, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today.
Leo, thank you so much.